NVIDIA joins the Dow Jones Industrial Average today. Joining us now to discuss this milestone and what the incoming Trump administration could mean for the chip sector is Chris Caso. He is Wolfe Research senior analyst. And anything we talk about in trying to handicap things, whether it's retail or things made in China, it's all difficult to discern what's going to happen until it actually happens in a new administration. What are you expecting, Chris? Well,
I mean, the first part is, as you say, as we knew from the last Trump administration, whatever we thought one week, it changes the next. So it's unpredictable to start. But there's really kind of three things that we're watching here. One is, further restrictions on equipment sold into China, AI restrictions, and then what happens with tariffs. And on the first one, on the equipment, there's already a lot of restrictions in place. And in fact, it sounds like, there were going to be more restrictions before the end of the year by the existing administration. But China is already very, very significantly hampered in what they can produce already. So any other restrictions from here, it's either kind of tweaking along the edges or a full stop, and a full stop hasn't been on the table. With AI, similarly, NVIDIA can only ship into China about what Huawei can do themselves. So if you put additional restrictions on what NVIDIA can ship into China, well, that's just going to move a lot of business to Huawei. So it doesn't have a lot of effect. And on the third thing, on tariffs, there's actually not a lot of semiconductors that come directly into the U.S. from China. As an example of iPhone, the chips are made in Taiwan. They go to China for assembly, and they come back to the U.S. in a fully manufactured iPhone. So, because of that, we kind of see tweaking along the edges, but not huge impact on the chip industry.
Chris, were you a proponent, supporter of the CHIPS Act? And do you think that it's been a success at this point? I know it's still early. And do you think the Trump administration is going to try, is this one of the things, if they do win the House, the Republicans, that they're going to try and reverse?
Joe, my view on the CHIPS Act was a bit mixed. There definitely was a real imperative to diversify production outside of Taiwan for obvious geopolitical reasons. The world woke up, so we're overexposed to this one country. That's probably not a good idea. And so the CHIPS Act helped that. However, as the money was dispersed, if you remember at the time when the CHIPS Act was being contemplated, it was about, automotive semiconductors being in shortage, and, we need to encourage investment. And now we've got way more automotive semiconductors than we need, which is often what happens when government acts. But the money that was spent on manufacturing would have been spent anyway if the CHIPS Act never existed. It did encourage perhaps a little more investment in the U.S., but even that, Apple knew that they needed TSMC to diversify outside of Taiwan. They would have made TSMC do it, with CHIPS Act money or not. But Singapore, for example, is a popular destination for new semiconductor facilities. Part of it is, it's friendly to business, it's low tax rates, and they incentivize their business too. So the CHIPS Act, in some sense, just kind of levels the playing field of the U.S. versus the rest of the world in terms of the incentives that governments provide for what's a pretty important business.
Right. It is industrial policy, but Trump has some things that at least look like industrial policy that he's proposing as well. So you said it was mixed. I think what you finally said was, because other countries are doing it, we might as well do it to level up our playing field, but we're not very good at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, all industrial policy, is the money being sent to the right companies for the right reasons?
You mean Intel?
Well,
they could use the money. Maybe we're lucky we sent it to them.
It appears they really need it now. And, our view on Intel is that
we're buying coffee again for their employees. So we got that going for us. Then tea, depending on your preference. All right, Chris. Yeah, it's mixed, and it's, it's only today's Friday, so we didn't know anything till Wednesday. There's a lot of these things that will be worked out. We got 4 years to figure out whether it's working or not, Chris. Anyway, thanks. Good to have you on.
It'll be an interesting 4 years for that.